everybody, thanks so much for joining me today. I thought I would pop in and talk about this painting right here. I have a time-lapse video I'm going to show you and sort of talk about the process a little bit. Let's get started. So the way I like to start all of my paintings is with an underpainting. I like to tone my canvas or my board, whatever I'm painting on, and I usually go with a bright color. The next thing I did is I took some magenta and I used this to draw my subject. After I have my subject totally drawn in, I usually like to work from the background to the foreground. So I mixed up a nice batch of turquoise here and started with that. I was really interested in painting a painting like this because of the transition in color in the sky. I am so fascinated recently with, as the sun is setting, how the sky will transition from a beautiful turquoise down to an orange, because if you know a little bit about color theory, orange and blue are across from one another on the color wheel, and I think it's so interesting how quickly one color transitions into another, and it's just so beautiful the whole way through. If you were to mix turquoise and orange color paint, you will likely get a brown color, and obviously that's not happening in the sky every night. So it's been really fun for me to sort of experiment with colors to depict that light transitioning happening in the sky, and that's what I wanted to practice here with this painting. Another thing that's been really interesting to me lately has been the notion of just how much atmospheric perspective or the atmosphere can change the look and feel of big, huge pieces of your landscape, like a big mountain range, for example. I'm so interested in how they will actually almost disappear off into the distance, depending on the time of day, depending on the weather conditions, and that's been something I've been really interested in experimenting with lately as well. And if you're familiar with my work, you might know that I tend to paint really bold, really bright, saturated, high contrast, but painting a subject like this actually requires a huge step back from that, and just having subtle little changes in your tones and your colors and working with much more desaturated colors. So mixing the paint for these mountains was a big challenge actually. I mixed a batch, took a look at it, and actually forced myself to lighten it up a whole lot and desaturate it a lot by adding some orangey colors into my purple mixture before actually finally starting to paint it. If you look close, you can see that there aren't a whole lot of huge changes in color and tone through these mountains, but they're very subtle, and they're just subtle enough to sort of be able to add detail to the landscape of the mountains, so they don't look totally flat. After I painted in my mountains, I began to work my way further and further into the foreground. And as I did that, I saturated my paint a little bit more, and I slowly added more green and yellow to the mix. Greens tend to drop out the quickest as you go back into the distance, into the atmosphere, so that's why mountains will look blue and purple. So as I worked my way forward, I slowly began to add more and more green into my mix. It was important for me to keep things loose, not add a whole lot of detail to this painting. Really, the whole purpose of this painting was to experiment with light and perspective. Really, the most interesting part of the painting for me is the sky and those purple mountains in the background. So that's why I sort of kept some details out of the foreground, kept it simple. After I was happy with everything, I took a little skewer that I have because my paint was super wet still and signed the bottom of my painting, and that was that. I hope you enjoyed watching my time lapse and hearing a little bit about my painting process. I'm really excited with how this little painting turned out. Even though it just took me a couple hours to paint, it was a great learning experience, and it's definitely inspired me to work on larger paintings with this color palette and really exaggerated atmospheric perspective. So once I start working on larger pieces, I'm sure I will be recording them and sharing them with you. Until then, hit the subscribe button, the like button, let me know what you think in the comments, and you can follow me on Instagram. All my information is below. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys!